not just a killer, is he?
No. He's a monster.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 horror remake Salem's Lot. The film is directed by Gary Dauberman and it stars Lewis Pullman, Mackenzie Leigh, Jordan Preston Carter, Alfie Woodard, Bill Camp and John Benjamin Hickey. Right, okay. This obviously is the big budget remake of the classic Stephen King novel that has been brought to the screen twice before. We got the 1979 miniseries starring David Soul, directed by Toby Hooper, and then we got another miniseries in the noughties starring Rob Lowe and Donald Sutherland and Rutger Hauer. Both, in my opinion, are excellent. The original, for me, still stands out as the best. Where does this one stand up? Well, for those of you who don't know what the story's about, the film focuses on Lewis Pullman's Ben Mears, who is an author who is returning to his childhood hometown of Jerusalem's Lot, because he wants to research his new book. Something traumatic happened to him at this spooky house at Jerusalem's Lot when he was a child, and he wants to kind of go back, research the town and focus it on his next book. When he gets there, he finds out that Stryker and Barlow have taken over the old house, opened an antique store in town, and then slowly but surely some of the townsfolk start disappearing, and it quickly becomes clear to some of them in the town that vampires are here. Right. What are my thoughts on this version of Salem's Lot? Well, as I said, I think the other two versions of Salem's Lot are excellent, especially the original. But for those of you who hasn't seen the miniseries in the noughties, the one with Rob Lowe, Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer, you really should give that a go, because I think that's very underrated as well. In regards to this one, I think there are minuses and positives here. I don't think this is a complete washout by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is getting the usual, reactions from people saying it's trash, it's garbage, blah, blah, blah. It's getting boring now. People aren't willing to actually watch something and review it balanced and fairly. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a balanced, fair review of this, because there are aspects of this that I thought were really done quite well, and I'll focus on them first. I like the way the film looked. It had this real colourful look to it. It felt like, something from the 80s almost. It was filmed in such a way as well as you couldn't exactly pinpoint the time period, what time period it's set in. It could be modern day, it could be set in the 70s, 80s. I liked that. The story didn't need to tell you what time period it's set in, which I thought that was nicely done. I like the fact that it feels very Stephen King in its vibe. Of course it does, it's based on his novel, but similar to it, like the townsfolk in it, just behave really oddly and just dismiss things or ignore things. Very similar to the townsfolk in here in Jerusalem's Lot, and they emphasize that particularly well. I enjoyed. I think what I want to say as well is if you've never seen the original or the miniseries and you don't really know anything about the book, you might actually quite enjoy this, because it's paced in such a way that it gets straight down to business, and the vampires appear fairly quickly, and there are some fun vampire scenes. If you like just a decent vampire film, and like I say, you don't have any baggage from the other film miniseries and book and stuff, then I don't think you'll hate this at all. I thought there's a scene in the morgue that I thought was done really quite well, that built tension very well, that was kind of ruined by, at the end, a character gets bit by a vampire, and she's a doctor, and she just so happens to have a rabies shot in her doctor's bag that's about that big. yeah, I call bullshit on that. But it was well done scene that I thought worked quite well and was quite, scary is not the right word, but creepy. I loved the driving scene at the end. I thought that was really nicely done. The idea of like coffins in cars, if you like. So the vampires, by this point, there's quite a few of them been turned. Well, most of them, pretty much. And they're all kind of in the drive-in, sleeping in the boots of their cars, which was a clever idea. I liked that. I thought that worked really quite well. And the whole driving scene, I thought, worked brilliantly too. And the whole concept, of the sunlight slowly coming in and time is of the essence and all this kind of stuff. I thought that was very, very well done. And beyond that, I'm going to start getting to some of the criticisms now. So for those of us who do go into this with baggage of seeing the original miniseries, the Naughties miniseries, and have read the book, there is absolutely no time here to develop any characters or to establish the characters. They're just faces for the most part. Even Ben Mears, the main character, they don't explore his character at all. You don't know what happened to him at the house when he was a child, and both of the versions explored that quite extensively. It was just too rushed for all the characters to get established. I mean, the film starts pretty much where all the other versions are like a quarter of the way through. It's just, I would be interested to know if there's like a director's cut of this that's maybe adds another 45 minutes or something. That might be a much better version of this. As it stands, as I've said, for those of you who don't have that baggage, the pacing you might enjoy. For those of us who do have that baggage, like myself, the pacing is far too fast for this film, unfortunately. For me, it lifts the curtain way too soon on Barlow and Stryker, whereas again on the other versions, they take the time to percolate it. There's just something not right with Stryker, with James Mason's performance and Donald Sutherland's performance. They act very odd, and there's something not right. This version of Stryker is played by that guy from Game of Thrones. I mean, he normally plays a wonderful villain, but he's given nothing to do in this film that's villainous at all, really. It just doesn't give him anything to work with. He's barely on the screen, to be honest with you. And yeah, it just doesn't let the characters breathe. It doesn't let the story breathe. The book is something like 400 pages. It needs time to breathe. We really need to understand these characters and understand, the history of Jerusalem's Lot and why it attracts darkness and all this kind of stuff. And the film just doesn't explore that at all. It's just a straight vampire flick. And that's a positive and a negative, as I said right at the beginning. So for those of you wanting a traditional version of Salem's Lot, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed here. For those of you wanting just a simple vampire flick, you probably might quite enjoy a lot of this. Saying all that, I didn't desperately dislike this or anything. In fact, I quite enjoyed it, if I'm being honest. I thought it looked good. I thought it was well made. I thought the performances were good, even if they weren't given anything substantial to do. I wasn't overly keen on Lewis Pullman's performance as Ben Mears, of a severe lack of personality given to that character. Both other versions, David Soul and Rob Lowe, were much better in my opinion, but it's not to say he's terrible or anything. It's not his performance, it's just the character is very monotone here in this version. But like I said, there's some great vampire stuff going on in here. Some memorable scenes where the vampires are all on the rooftops, kind of with the eyes glowing in the dark. That was pretty freaky, I'm not going to lie. And I thought there were some interesting set pieces as well. And I liked the way that they portrayed Barlow here in this film. Like, In the original, they kind of based Barlow's image on like the classic Nosferatu vampire. In the miniseries, it was played by Rutger Hauer, and it was more truthful to the novel. And this time round, they go back to the Nosferatu image, and it looks pretty good. I mean, there's some dodgy CGI going on here and there, but for the most part, the effects are good, and I like the way Barlow was portrayed. So, yeah, there's good things and bad things here, guys. Don't just look at all these reviews that are giving it terrible reviews, saying it's garbage. It isn't garbage. It's got some merit. I can understand why this wasn't put on the cinema, why it's gone straight to streaming. But yeah, watch it, guys. Make your own mind up. It's not gonna be deemed as a classic or anything, but it's a very watchable vampire film. So thanks for joining me for this review, guys. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.